Relations Manager at the International Refugee Assistance Project, IRAP. We are the organization that is litigating the case on behalf of many wonderful refugee resettlement agencies as well as impacted refugees. Okay, so today we have a series of speakers from the organizations as well as refugees themselves who talk a little bit about their experience and why it is so important that we welcome refugees. We just heard oral arguments in the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals behind us. And first, we're going to have a series of speakers. We'll have time for a question and answer after the remarks, and then individual speakers will be available for interview following that. And if you need any follow-up, you can reach us at media@refugeerights.org. You can answer any questions and direct you to any of the organizations here today. I think, are we ready for our first speaker? Okay, thank you so much. If we can introduce Linda Everts, Senior Supervising Attorney at the International Refugee Assistance Project.
Well done. Thank you all for coming today. My name is Linda Everts, and I'm a Senior Supervising Attorney in the Litigation Department at the International Refugee Assistance Project. We came here today to ask the Ninth Circuit to allow the District Court's preliminary injunctions to remain in place and to take full effect now, while our challenge to the Trump administration's refugee ban and its tragic consequences for individuals and families in the United States around the world continues. We are heartened by how seriously the court is taking this case and the many questions they asked, and their recognition of the importance of these benefits and the assistance provided by our clients and to our clients. Our argument in front of the court today was clear. This illegal and indefinite suspension continues to cause daily irreparable harm, and the injunctions should be given effect immediately. Every day that the refugee ban remains in place, families are separated and lives are at risk. We hope that the court will move quickly to end this crisis and restore a functioning refugee program consistent with law. This is about America's long-standing commitments and bedrock values. It's about reuniting families who have waited so long to be together. This is about welcoming refugees to our country as the tremendous additions that they are. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Up next, we have Jackie Mentor, Director of Refugee Resettlement at Jewish Family and Children's Service of Long Beach and Orange County, who will be reading an account from a local refugee.
Thank you. Thank you. My name's Jackie Mentor, and I represent Highest Affiliate, and today I will share a little bit of the story of the mother of one of the families that we have been working with for the past couple of years. I left my country in the middle of a civil war, to seek a life of safety and stability. We were living each day, doing everything just to survive to the end of the day. We had lost all sense of security, and everyone was haunted by the fear of death everywhere. After the war destroyed my home and my dreams, I left my country with my children. We left for another country that is not a country of stability, but it was a relatively safe station with no shelling and no planes bombing over its homes. I began a new journey with new challenges that I had to face alone for the first time in my life, in the absence of friends and family, and without the comfort of those I know by my side. I was lost in a new country with many hardships. Hope appeared waving from afar of a safe, just, and stable life with a better future for my children. This hope was what gave me the energy to continue and face the difficulties ahead of me. This hope was the possibility of coming to the United States. My spirit returned to me again, and I began to wait impatiently for this life of safety and stability. I worked hard to prepare and be ready for my anticipated second home. But what happened instead in 2017 was my hopes were destroyed by the ban on the entry of refugees, and in particular Syrians. Disappointment crept into our lives in all its details, and we began to lose hope again little by little. We remained stuck for years with additional suffering and additional decisions we had to make that made our existence very difficult. For several years, we remained in this other country outside of Syria, losing hope until the refugee ban in the U.S. was lifted, the first refugee ban. We settled in our second homeland when we arrived into the U.S., and we started working hard to become successful and productive individuals here in the United States. We started working hard to become successful and productive individuals in the safe station for nearly 6 years. And then finally, in 2022, we were granted entry to the United States to come as refugees. We are still trying to overcome the loneliness that we feel, and we hope that all other refugees who still are suffering will have this opportunity. We gained hope when the opportunity we had, and we're so lucky to have to come here, became a possibility for another one of our family members. Together, we built dreams of living close to each other once again. My brother and his family were so close to their dream coming true, just like it had for us. And we were waiting impatiently for my brother and his family to be assigned a travel date to come to the U.S. to join us here. We expected that my brother and his family would have arrived soon after January 2025 of this year. It was so close, and we thought that day that they would travel would come any day. But then, another disappointment. The entry of refugees was banned again, and our hopes were shattered for the 1000th time. Now my brother and his family are threatened with deportation and no longer allowed to work in the country in which they are stuck. They cannot come here to the United States, and they cannot return to Syria. We all want to be active, productive, contributing members of society here in America, in our second homeland, as we were in our first. But the opportunity has been taken away for so many. I am sharing my story to convey to you a picture of the human suffering of those displaced from their homelands and stuck in dangerous and difficult countries that do not want them. The importance of the U.S. RAP, United States Refugee Admissions Program, Refugee and Assistance Program, can save the lives of so many families, and this can't be overstated. The United States is a country that leads the world. In the past, we have led the world in welcoming refugees. Resettlement is an important initiative that gives refugees a new chance at life, an opportunity to live again in safety and security, and also to create bridges of communication between the cultures and civilizations of the entire world. Like so many refugees who came here before me, I am now working hard to make the most for myself and my family here in the U.S. and to contribute back to our new country and community. I'm still hoping, even after having my hopes destroyed so many times, that one day soon, refugees who've been waiting for years in camps, in inhospitable countries, will be resettled and will no longer be banned from the United States. I hope they will be allowed once again to come here and resettle. Like me, and the millions of refugees resettled in the United States before me, I know all their energies will be directed to serving this new homeland. They need to be brought to safety, and we need them here.
Thank you so much, Jackie, for reading those powerful words. It's a reminder that unfortunately we have been here before and we were able to overcome it, and people like the person whose testimony she has read were able to come to the United States and start their lives. And hopefully we're fighting for people to do that yet again. Up next, we have Mark Hetfield, the president of HIAS, who will be speaking about.
Thank you. I'm Mark Hetfield. I'm the president of HIAS, which is one of the plaintiffs in Pacito v. Trump, and which is the oldest refugee organization in the world, having been founded 120 years ago. We have a long memory at HIAS, and we still remember the dark days when in Europe we saw persecution and discrimination, which then became labor camps, which then became death camps. And at that time, the United States did not have a resettlement program for refugees to escape from persecution to find safety and freedom. Congress finally rectified this with the Refugee Act of 1980 to give refugees a safe and legal way to flee to safety in the United States. I repeat, refugee resettlement is an immigration program established by law for people who have been forced to flee their home countries because they face persecution simply by being who they are. On his very first day in office, Donald Trump slammed the door shut in the face of over 125,000 refugees who, after fleeing for their lives, stood in line, followed all the rules, and were approved by the Department of Homeland Security for resettlement to the United States. He stranded 128,000 people. In stranding DHS-approved refugees, Donald Trump shows contempt for the laws of our country, but HIAS is relying on this court to force the president to follow the laws, just as these 128,000 refugees followed the law when they applied for resettlement to the United States. God bless America, and God bless the refugees who, as we know, from study after study and from our own personal experience, have contributed so much to this country as new Americans. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Our next speaker is Adriana Burgos. She is the case manager at the International Institute of Los Angeles, and she's going to tell her own personal story.
First I'm gonna talk in English and after in Spanish. Good afternoon. It's good afternoon. It's not good morning anymore. My name is Adriana y soy orgullosamente refugee from El Salvador. It's an honor to be here and contribute a little bit to this cause because today I want to speak on behalf of everyone directly impacted by this suspension. All those who have waited for years to get the approval to be resettled in the U.S., all those families who sold all their belongings only to have their travel plans canceled and their critical survival benefits are indefinitely delayed. I was one of them years ago, 4 years ago exactly. I understand the situation they are going through. The decision to leave is not easy. Even after getting the approval, my husband and I left our families, friends, community, jobs, lives, plans behind when we came here. And we came here for an uncertain future. Resettlement agency do amazing work. I work with one, IILA. At the same time, IILA is the one organization who is participating in the amicus curiae the reason we are here today. And the resettlement agency guide refugees people through this new system because it's not easy. U.S. system is totally different in our country than here. They helping us navigate it to the DMV system, social security, health system, mental system, ESL. The most important thing, in my opinion, is they help us finding work. That is the most difficult part because everyone comes here to work and works hard to restart their life. I now been working with IILA for 3 years and a half. I'm not only able to share my own story, but also I hear a lot of stories from my clients. And I can say for sure that we are people who have come here from difficult situations that for us to begin our life and all over again here. So now, okay, mi nombre es Adriana y soy orgullosamente refugiada de El Salvador. Es un honor para mí estar aquí y poder poner un granito de arena con esta pequeña contribución a esta causa. Estoy aquí por hablar en nombre de aquellos que fueron impactados directamente por esta suspensión. Todos aquellos que han esperado años para obtener la aprobación para ser reasentados en Estados Unidos. Por aquellas familias que les vendieron sus pertenencias, por aquellos que sus situaciones de supervivencia son críticas y lo único que han recibido fue la cancelación y atrasos indefinidos. Yo fui uno de ellos y entiendo la situación por la que están atravesando. De todas maneras, la decisión de dejar tu país no es fácil, aún teniendo la aprobación. Mi esposo y yo dejamos nuestras familias, amigos, trabajos, planes y nuestras vidas atrás y venimos aquí con un futuro incierto, sin saber qué íbamos a hacer para salir adelante y en qué íbamos a trabajar. Las agencias de reasentamiento hacen un grandioso trabajo para una de ellas, el Instituto Internacional de Los Ángeles, que también es una que ha contribuido al escrito de Aminus Cubos Curae que nos tiene ahora aquí. Las agencias de reasentamiento nos ayudan a los refugiados con todo el nuevo sistema que tenemos que aprender, el DMV, la Oficina del Seguro Social, clases de inglés y encontrar un trabajo, que es la parte más difícil del proceso, en la cual necesitamos más ayuda porque todos venimos aquí a trabajar y a reconstruir nuestras vidas. He trabajado con IILA 3 años y medio y puedo hablar no solo de mi historia, sino que de las miles de historias que he escuchado a través de mis clientes y puedo decir con seguridad que los refugiados hemos venido a este país por situaciones difíciles que nos han obligado a venir aquí a reconstruir nuestras vidas, a buscar seguridad y no estamos aquí por turismo, estamos aquí buscando contribuir económicamente y laboralmente a este país. Gracias.
Gracias, Adriana, for sharing your own experience and for all the work that you do on behalf of refugees in Los Angeles. Our next speaker is David Dewey, the CEO of Lutheran Community Services Northwest.
Good afternoon. I want to start with the modernized Martin Luther quote. Martin Luther said, "Faith is a person who plants a tree where they will never enjoy the shade." I believe that's what we're doing today. Not only, I agree with Mark, we are here for the 128,000 that we abandoned, but we're also here for the next generation of refugees. We need to be ready. And so as Lutherans, we practice the long welcome. That means we're there at the beginning, and then we're one of the last to leave because we believe in this program. We have collectively, as a local resettlement agency, resettled over 50,000 refugees. 2 of them right now are on our board of directors, and we have witnessed what they do to communities, and it's positive. It's all positive. And so I want to finish by just a gratitude. We can't do this work alone, so HIAS, Church World Services, IRAP, and especially the refugees that stood up for this lawsuit, I just want to say thank you, and thank you for all of you for being here today.
David. Our next speaker is Amir Khan. He's the Community Engagement Specialist at Church World Service, CWS.
Before I start, I want to thank all of you for being here today. That means a lot for refugees, especially people like me that, I made it here. So I want to start that I was born and raised in Afghanistan. when the U.S. came in Afghanistan in 2001 after that happened in 9/11. So, in my village, people were running out of food and medical and anything that you name it, basic needs. So it was not the U.S. government, it was the non-profit organization. They came to our village. They pulled tracks after tracks with this, all kind of logos that you name it. And then they gave us food and, voice and a safe place to call home at that time. So I wondered after that time that I want to be one of them like that, like them aside from the refugees situation. And I joined a Catholic organization and started serving Afghan people and providing agricultural training, sustainable response to anger and poverty, like that stuff. But let me share 3 important points that everybody should understand is that why people leave. People leave in 3 reasons. Number 1, there is war. For example, in Ukraine, people have nothing to do. They were enjoying their life, and then all of a sudden Russia start bombing, and then they drop bombs, people dying, and people have to leave. They have no choice. You have family, your friends are dying, and you have no option to leave. That is number 1. Number 2 is climate change. Right now, a lot of people say, "Oh, that is not happening." That is happening. We saw the fire right here in Los Angeles, and that is not a joke. And like people, for example, in Kenya, they have nothing to do. So in climate and disaster strikes, and if we don't help them, who is going to help them? So there are a lot of organizations. I'm very proud of Children's Service that we help them over there with the help of Crop and Works. Thank you, David, for being one of them, organizing the Pasadena Crop and Work. Number 3 is religion prosecution. So a lot of people around the world are, for their beliefs, they are getting prosecuted. So people have no other options to stay. So they say, okay, well, if I'm going to not leave, I'm going to, what's going to happen for them? They're going to get died. They're going to die. They're going to go to jail, and they eventually lose their families. So people have no other options to refuge. So they refuge. And then now we see all this blockage and refugee ban and all of that. But I'm still grateful that the SIV program that I came through Afghan, it's called Special Immigration Visa. I'm grateful that I came through that. That is still alive, but there is still, they make it too slow. It is very slow. People coming in a very regular basis. Some might even make it or not. We don't know what's going to happen, but still that is happening. Again, I want to tell all of you that, thank you very much for being here today. People like me, that was once a refugee and now on the other side of the world, and working with Children's Service, and I work with Crop and Works around the country, helping the people. That was why I'm telling that story, because that means that refugees are giving back to the community. We are not only taking from the community, we give back to the community. We contribute to the community a lot more than those think about it. Again, thank you very much for being here today.
Thank you, Amir. All right, our next speaker is Rabbi Susan Goldberg. She is the rabbi at Nephish, an interfaith leader with Clue Justice and LA Voice. Thank you.
Thanks for the message. We're all trying to speak each other's languages, and in a deep way we do. Because you see here folks of multiple faiths. And one of the clearest things in all of our faith traditions, the most repeated commandment inside of the Hebrew Bible, the Torah, that then becomes sacred for many traditions, is to take care of the stranger, to take care of those who are traveling, who are leaving places of danger and oppression, who are passing through and need care or need a place to stay permanently. It is ancient and fundamental. It was an incredible honor to be seated in that courtroom and to listen to the attorneys do your holy work. And yes, there were robust questions, as you said. And yet, underneath it all was the reality of all the thousands of human beings who were not seen necessarily in that room, but I hope from what you brought up were felt. And the basic moral truth that we must care for those in danger and in peril. We know that from our religious scriptures across ancient traditions. This is something we deeply share. And whether or not you are religious or spiritual, we say in Yiddish, we know it in our kishkas. We know it in the deepest part of ourselves that when somebody is in need of help, we help them. When somebody is fleeing sexual violence or war or any of the many things that put people in danger all over the world, that it is not just a possibility, but it's an actual obligation. It is an obligation to care for the stranger and those in need, because all of us are B'Tselem Elohim. All of us are created in the image of the divine. And we in Los Angeles, most recently, have been on the front lines of the authoritarian takeover of our city. And not just for no reason, but to be cruel, to be unusually cruel, to be separating families with no thought of what this might mean for people's lives, and the reality of that those who are making these decisions, many of them, their families came as refugees and immigrants. And yet now some of them are designing this time of horrific harm to families. So I want to say to the attorneys, to the leaders of these organizations, to all of the refugees, that you are not alone. And I know that it is a time of great and total spiritual and emotional exhaustion, but that we know that when we stay the course together, and we will, because it is the right thing, that there will come a day, we say by Yom Hahu, that day we know is coming when the world will transform. So we pray that the courts open a path to those seeking safety and dignity. And we pray that each of us, in all the ways that we can, continue to take care of each other and build the communities, the country, and the world that we know is possible.
Thank you so much, Rabbi Goldberg. Our last speaker is Reverend Noel Anderson, the National Field Director of Church World Service, CWS.
Thank you so much, and let me hear everybody say, refugees are welcome here. Refugees are welcome here. Refugees are welcome here. We've heard from amazing speakers today, litigators, refugee agencies, faith leaders, and most importantly, from refugees themselves. And as a Christian pastor, I know that we are called, just as the rabbi said, we are called to welcome immigrants and refugees in our midst. And the Church World Service covenant member denominations have been being part of doing community sponsorship for nearly 80 years. Not quite 120, but it's a lot. And Jesus tells us in Matthew 25, just as you did it to one of the least of these who are members of my family, you did it to me. We have the moral obligation to hold this administration accountable, and I'm thankful to CWS, IRAP, HIRIS, Lutheran Community Service of the Northwest. We are bringing our values here today, and we are saying that we have that firsthand experience, right? We have been walking around alongside communities, and that our communities are stronger as a result. This is a long bipartisan tradition of welcoming refugees, by the way. And since 1980, across different parties in power, the annual average refugee admission goal is 95,000. Can you say 95,000 with me? 95,000. Yet this Trump administration has holds to the problem altogether. They weren't even sure today how many people, several hundreds, right? What is happening to our refugee program? They're trying to eradicate it. They're trying to eviscerate it. And we cannot turn our backs on our promise and the congressional mandate of the 19 Refugee Act. Instead, we will uphold the values of democracy, of compassion, and welcome. Are you with me? Yeah. We know that tens of thousands of refugees are waiting. They've been screened. They're ready to go. Many of them, 12,000, right, have to have their travel scheduled. Our first priority is to restore this refugee program now and provide the protection to those in the pipeline. We are on this lawsuit to compel the administration to do what is right. And We must restore the refugee resettlement program now, regardless, and looking specifically towards the most vulnerable, regardless of their country, origin, race, or faith tradition. As we approach another appropriation season and the annual presidential determination on September 30th, which is another word for refugee admissions goal, we must continue to have robust funding and a robust admissions goal. Now, we pray. We are here today. We are calling out. We are crying for justice. We are praying that this court will make the right decision and that this administration will turn its ways away from the unconstitutional and immoral and unjust refugee ban. Thank you all for your continued support, advocacy. Go out, continue to educate, mobilize, support all those refugees and immigrants. We have a moral obligation to do no less.
Well said, Noel. And that concludes the formal program today. If there are any questions for our speakers, we can take them now, and people will be available for an interview after as well. Do we have any questions?
When do you think there'll be a decision in that case?
When will there be a decision?
We don't know. We are hopeful that we will know soon what the court is thinking, and of course, as folks may know, the oral argument was originally scheduled a couple weeks from now, and the court has moved it up. So I think it is clearly taking this very seriously.
Why was there no discussion of the South Africans that Trump allowed? And I know Truth World Service was involved with working with them.
So I would say, from my perspective as a lawyer, of course, we had to answer the questions that the judges were asking, and we were trying to give them the information that they sought, and it was clear that they were very interested in components about how the refugee program has been working, in part as a result of the injunctions that are currently at least partially operative, or now there's an administrative stay, but they were partially operative for months because of this case.
Well, thank you so much. I know it's been a very hot and long day, and so we'll wrap up, and we will be taking some photos. So if speakers could head over there, we can get some photos in front of the court, and otherwise I'll be available if anyone has any questions. Thank you, everyone.
Who are refugees? Refugees are people just like you and me. People with lives, plans, and dreams for the future. But war, violence, and persecution have forced them to make an incredibly difficult choice. Some faced danger because of who they are and what they believe. Some are in danger because they spoke out on behalf of their neighbors who were marginalized. Others have watched as their homes were destroyed and their neighborhoods became war zones. All of them left everything behind for a chance at safety for themselves and their families. Once refugees arrive in a new country, they register with the United Nations Refugee Agency to access protection and other benefits. Some live in refugee camps. Many live in cities and towns, beginning new lives in their host countries. There are more than 80 million people who have been forcibly displaced from their homes. 26 million are refugees as defined by the UN. Less than 1% of refugees get the opportunity to be resettled in a third country like the United States. How do refugees get resettled in the United States? Although they have made it out of immediate danger, some particularly vulnerable refugees cannot remain in the country they fled to. These refugees may have urgent medical needs, be survivors of torture, or they may be in danger of further persecution. The UN Refugee Agency identifies the refugees who are most in need of resettlement to a safe third country, like the United States, and refers their cases to the U.S. Refugee Admissions Program. These refugees undergo thorough background, biometric, security, and health screenings before being approved to travel to the United States. A regional resettlement support center provides information and classes to prepare them for life in the United States, and then their travel is booked. Each week, refugee resettlement agencies like CWS are assigned to the cases of arriving refugee families. As soon as these families arrive in the United States, we are there to welcome them to their new home and provide the services they need to rebuild their lives.